Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation as part of the Industry Insight webinar series. The topic this time is taking charge of your practice. Speaking today will be Ron Collins. Ron Collins is an experienced attorney, a fellow of the College of Law Practice Management, and an internationally recognized author and speaker on the subject of law and technology. He is also the founder and CEO of Gavel & Gown Software, Inc., a company dedicated to providing practice management solutions that work the way lawyers do. The Industry Insight webinar series is hosted by the ABA Legal Technology Resource Center. To stay updated on upcoming webinars or view previous videos, visit ambar.org/industryinsight. You can also stay updated on legal technology news through our blog, www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you, Chelsea, and thank you everyone for joining me today. It's my real pleasure to be with you and to be talking about how to take charge of your practice and make it more profitable. And the key words there are practice and business, because they're really the same thing, and yet to many of us, there feels like there's a bit of a tension there. As attorneys, that's what we're trained as, to be attorneys, to be legal professionals who represent our clients to affect legal results for them. We go to years of law school, study for the bar, and almost all of that is related to the professional side of our practice, representing clients in their legal issues. But at the same time, we need to get paid for that. And it is our business, it is how we earn our livings, and as soon as there's more than one of us working together, it is a full-fledged business. Even as solos, the practice is also a business. And it has to be looked at as a business and run as a business if we're to be, of course, profitable and financially successful, which is something that we all would like to be. So that's a good thing. And it used to be so easy to do that. You could just raise your hourly rate until you were making enough money compared to the work you were putting in. Those were years long since gone. In today's competitive landscape, you can't just raise your rates. But today, I'm going to show you how to understand your practice as a business and thereby make it better. Whether you're now working on hourly rates or fixed fees or a bit of both, the key here is going to be to analyze your practice and understand it in those business senses, and then the rest will flow. So let's analyzing with some questions. Can you answer these questions? And they're not all, by any means, all of the questions you might want to ask, but there's some good ones. For example, who are your most profitable clients? And what areas of your practice are making you A, the most money, but B, the most profit? Because if you have to put an enormous amount of time into an area of practice compared to the revenue it's generating, even though it's a lot of revenue, it might not be the best practice area for you. Can you analyze that? Do you know that today? Another question is, what is your effective hourly rate? Now, we all know what our billable rates are, our hourly rate, whether it's 200, 300, whatever dollars an hour. We know that's what it officially is. But what is it effectively when you compare all the billable time you're putting in to what you're collecting? What is your effectively rate? How can you make that effective rate higher? And interestingly, is it higher on fixed fee or hourly cases? We'll come back to that. If you've got a colleague in your firm with you, multiple colleagues, which of them have the highest write-offs? How is that affecting your practice as a business? What a percentage of your AR is getting too old, and over 90 days certainly is. Are there areas of your practice where you really shouldn't be doing that kind of work because of the financial side of it or its impact on your business? And how does all of this in your practice compare to other firms that are of a similar size? If you want to grow, what practice area should you be growing in? Where are you making money that will make sense to grow your business? As I said, there's lots more questions like that, but those are all really important questions. Can you answer them today? Well, I'm sure you could. If you could dig through miles of paperwork, you could figure out any of those questions I just posed. But that's a lot of non-billable time, and it's certainly not fun. So what we're here to talk about today is that you can get those answers, and a lot more like them, almost as a byproduct of your daily work. And that's the real key, because again, we are attorneys. What we do and what we like to do is represent our clients in professional legal work. The key is to be able to run your practice as a business and answer those questions without having to focus on them. By doing your work and tracking it properly as you do the work, the answers to those questions will simply fall out. All right, before we get into some specifics of how, let's take a step back and think about a law practice as a business from 40,000 feet, because there's about 4 main elements in terms of how we turn our work into, how we turn it into dollars in our bank account. First of all, of course, there is the work. Our main investment, our main inventory is our time, and our investment of that inventory is when we do work for clients. Then we have our billable time, because while investing our time in doing the work is important, we need to track that for it to be translated into revenue. So we may have put in this much work, but we've only tracked this much, and there's a percentage right here that's been missed. Then it comes time to billing. So we've tracked this much, but how much of that actually gets turned into a bill and how much gets adjusted out before the bills go out the door to the client? There's a factor of bill adjustments comes in as well. The bill's now gone out and we're waiting for the clients to pay. How much of those bills do we actually collect versus having to write off because the client either disputes some of the charges on the bill or refuses to pay or something else? And as you can see visually, the amount you collect versus the amount you invest is very much different. Studies actually show that on average at each stage in this 4-bar chart, typical slippage or lost revenue is about 15%. So 15% of your work is not tracked, 15% of your tracked time is not billed, and 15% of your billed time is not paid. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, 15%. Okay, I can live with that, but do the math. It's actually huge. If you invest $1,000 worth of your time and have those 4 pieces of slippage at 15% each, you are going to collect $614. That's right. That's the standard slippage that most of us experience between invested time and actually collected revenue is $614 out of every 1,000. That's phenomenal, and that's what we're here to talk about, because clearly anything we can do at each of these stages in this bar is going to improve our practice. Well, it's not like I can offer you a simple sauce. The answer to this question is to analyze your practice and think about each of these areas and find small ways to improve each, because if you can do so, you're going to increase that percentage. Let's start with analyzing your practice. And here we've got the analogy of the forest and the trees. It's an old analogy, but it's true, because it's easy to take any one client matter file and see the profitability in that file. How much time did you put in? How many extras were there? How much of a huge effort or involvement of other people was it? And then what did you get paid for it? That's relatively easy, and we often have a gut sense for that without even having to look at the accounting statements. But we need to take a step back and analyze the whole practice of business as a whole. And to do that, we need to ask the right questions and to have the right tools that'll give us those answers, again, without spending hours and hours digging through the paperwork. What do we have to analyze? Well, first of all, we need to analyze our processes around time and fee tracking, billing, and collections, because there's a process in each and every firm. They're a little different in every firm. Improving those processes will improve the bottom line. We also have to analyze those against profit drivers and other elements, things like the different practice areas, the staff who are involved in each of the processes, the clients, and of course the billing methodologies. So this ends up being, if you wanted to be very analytical, like a grid, analyzing both profit drivers and components against processes. You could, if you were so inclined, put together a big grid of all of that. Don't worry, I'm not nearly that technical. We're going to be very practical here. So, what's happening out there? Well, as we said, the good old days of billing and collecting and raising your rates when you wanted more money are simply no longer true. There's been so many changes in the past 20 years, and in particular in the past 10. Lots of surveys I'm going to be talking about today. And they come down to this: firms need to be more efficient and more price competitive. Technology is helping. But technology is also helping non-law firm entities to compete with traditional law firms. There's so many interesting websites, legal-enabled websites, different techniques for delivering legal services to clients, services that we as attorneys used to have a sole monopoly on, and those are impacting our business as well. So technology can be a double-edged sword. At the same time, customers are simply more sophisticated and more demanding. And of course, we know hourly billing alternatives are on the rise, but we have to figure out how to cope with those. Bottom line is that firms need to pay more attention today than ever before to the business of law to remain competitive. All right, I promised you some surveys. Here's one that I think you'll find very interesting. It was done in 2014, so it's very recent. And this was a survey of law firms. So the information in here comes from people like you and me. Attorneys have said, here's what we are experiencing in the market today. And 93.8% said that there was more price competition than ever before and that it was continuing to grow. And similar percentage, 93.8% said that they have to focus on improved practice efficiency to survive in the practice of law today. 88.6% said that legal work is becoming more and more commoditized, and you only have to look at something like Avo with its $39 for a 15-minute fixed fee interview and all sorts of legal services with fixed fees out there to know that that's true. Another 88.6% said that they need to have fewer support staff to deliver legal services profitably and effectively. And of course, the corollary of that is that technology is replacing human resources, and the good news is that technology can. 82.3% said they're facing increased competition from non-traditional service providers. We've mentioned that. And almost 82% said they're seeing more non-hourly billing in their practice. And notice that the blue bar is they consider these changes to be permanent. So in each of those percentages, they're saying this is something that's not going back to the good old days. This is what has changed in the practice of law and will never go back. So you might say, well, maybe we've always felt a bit that way. Answer, I don't think so, because let's compare that survey to another one just 5 years before. So today we said about 94% saw more price competition. In 2009, it was 42%, less than half. More commoditized legal work, 89% today, 26% 5 years ago. Non-hourly billing being more and more prevalent, 81% today, 28% 5 years ago. So the changes in our profession are profound, and they're happening right now. The ancient Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, I'm afraid applies to all of us who are practicing law today. It is changing, and now we need to think about how we adjust our practices to not just cope with those trends, but to become even more profitable and successful, to ride those trends to better businesses in our law firms. How, you ask? Well, you've started the right way because you're with me on this webinar this afternoon. Take the time to ask the questions and look for answers, which you are doing. Thank you. I'm going to do what I can to help. Next, we've talked about technology a few times. Take advantage of technology, and most important system in that regard is your practice management system, because your practice management system builds up all sorts of information about your law practice as you practice day by day. It's doing that as it helps you do the professional side of your practice more effectively. The great news is all of that information it's building can then, with a few simple steps, turn into a business analysis as well. And that's how you collect the data. The practice management system can do that for you. Then you need to actually look at the data, analyze, plan, and then change, execute. Go back and review again and say, was that a good change? And then do that again. All right, let's get into some more specifics. We're going to start here with understanding time and fee tracking. The biggest investment in the case, we've said, is the human capital, the time and the people that you dedicate to each and every case. That's the first part of our equation. You need to start asking questions like, is everybody in your firm who's contributing to it tracking their time, and are they tracking it accurately? How are they spending their time? So you need to be able to analyze how they're spending their time, not just are they tracking it. Are they tracking non-billable time? And I can't emphasize this enough. A lot of people think it's enough if they just record their billable time and let the non-billable time go, because after all, they can't bill for it. That's just wrong, because unless you understand all the different things that people in your firm, including yourself, are doing and what's taking the time, you can't make it better. And if you want to be a more efficient law firm, you need to be more efficient at the non-billable activities, indeed reduce them to a minimum so that you can increase the billable time. So it's essential you track non-billable time as well as billable. Are you tracking all the different types of fees and the time related to them? We're going to come back to that as well. And of course, you need to look at the different profit centers. Wow, that's a lot. How on earth can you do that? Well, I'm going to actually flip into Amicus Attorney and show you. So this is Amicus Attorney. It's, well, the world's leading practice management system. And as you can see, I'm at the home screen right now. This is the professional side of my practice, and from here I track everything from my legal calendaring, my matter management, timesheets, all my communications, email, document management, everything else. This is where I live most of the time. But I'm using Amicus Attorney with Amicus Premium Billing, and all I have to do at any time in any screen is toggle between the attorney or professional practice view and the billing or the business side of my practice. And the information about my business practice is right here. And on the business side, Amicus will take all the information I was doing on my professional side and report on it for me with a single click. So I just have to click down here for reports and say, tell me about the time and fees in my law practice. All right, I'll open that up, and I can set a lot of things. I want to restrict the dates of what I'm going to look at, or who was working on it, or maybe by client. If I say do 20 matters for the same client, let me see how I'm doing just with that one client. There are a variety of different settings I can make like that, but I don't need to fill them all in. Those are restrictions or helping me analyze more narrowly, but I can just say, show it all to me. And that fast, I get a full journal of everything and then the ability to analyze it all. And it's not just a report where I sit here and I go, okay, on the Chubb Securities matter, there was a time entry put in here, or if I did Kappa. I can click on that, and there's the client file. So it's live. If I want to see that particular time entry, I click on it, and there it is. I can edit it, deal with it, and review it. That's great, but we're talking about full analysis. So here, look at what it's done for me. It's taken all of that information about all the time being put in. And again, each attorney or paralegal or staff member put in their time as and when they were doing it. And now look at the magic. It's going to show me by responsible lawyer how much time was put in. Here are the 3 fee earners in my firm. And you can see that Bob Bannock here has an awful lot of valuable time in. But if we summarize it by, and that's by responsible lawyer on the files, if we look at it by timekeeper, actually Bob Bannock is the lowest in terms of recording time. He's got colleagues, me included, who are doing more of the work, and you can see that at a glance. The next one is activity code. Now, I know tracking your time is a big enough pain in the backside that just doing it is usually enough, but I strongly encourage you to use activity codes on your time entries as well. Why? Because when you put in an activity code, it takes one extra click to record it. It allows you then to do an analysis like this. How much of that time that was tracked in your practice was related to discoveries? How much of it was drafting documents? How much of it was negotiations? How much of it was in trial prep? At one glance, automatically you get this total analysis if you just ask your people and yourself to track that time. And notice here, no code. I should practice what I preach, because clearly my staff is not putting in enough of the codes, so my analysis is going to be flawed in that regard. All right. Let's see what else we got automatically with our single click. We got a summary by file type, so now we can see which area of our practice is generating the revenue. Clearly, litigation is my main practice area, which of course it is. At the same time, we can see we only put in 7.6 hours on family law, and insolvency work, just a trivial amount. And so when you look at it by file type, you go, you know what, maybe those are areas of practice that we should discard because we're not doing enough of it to become experts at it, let alone profitable. Or you can look at it by billing category, how much contingency, fixed fee, or billable work am I doing, or by billing behavior. So you get a phenomenal amount of information with a single click out of your practice management system when you want to understand your time and fee tracking. It's simply terrific. All right, that's how you track it, and that's how you can analyze it once you've tracked it. But at the same time, how do you get there? How do you make it better? Well, my advice there is to set a target. First of all, you just can't get better unless you A, know what you're doing today, and then B, say, here's my target, here's how much I want to improve. And then you must measure yourself against it. So let's go over here back to Amicus Attorney, and again, we'll go back to the attorney side, and here's where I practice, and one of the things I do in here is my timesheets. So I've put in various timesheets today, and the most recent is some non-billable work on the webinar for this afternoon. That's great. I'm automatically entering my time entry. Many of these actually do automatically come out of Outlook and other such things. If I want to flip into the billing view of it, I can there and get more information. Or I can go down here to the statistics view and look at this. It looks very simple, or maybe a little confusing at first with the numbers in the chart, but it's magic. Because Amicus is telling me what I did last year, and then I can set my goals. I want at least 1,600 hours billable, 250 non-billable this year, and then it's going to calculate for me what that means per month, per week, per day I have to hit. 6.8. And by the way, surveys show that on average, people in 1 to 2 lawyer firms are doing 6.9 billable hours a day, but they're not necessarily recording that. And I want 3 weeks vacation. It's comparing that to last week's actual or last year's actuals. And then up here at the top, it's telling me, how am I doing? This week I've got 19 billable hours in and no non-billable. But it's Wednesday, and my goal is 33.9. I'm halfway through Wednesday, so at this rate, I'm going to do a bit better than my target. Same thing for this month and this year. It's telling me, projecting for me how I'm going to do, and it's comparing for me where I was at the same date last year. So I set my target down here, and then any time of day, every day I can click this button and see how am I doing. And if I don't like all the numbers, it just shows it to me. The red was last year, the yellow is my budget, and the blue shows me my actuals, and I'm targeted to just do a little bit better than actual. So setting your targets and then measuring yourself against them is a key business technique to making your business better. Then at the end of any given period, this is last fiscal year, you can run another report. I won't bother showing it to you, but it came the same way. Single click for the timekeeper George Alves, how much time was put in each business area. So broken down by my practice areas, broken down by month, how much time and the dollar value of that time is displayed. I got this with one click, and I can see at a glance that, all right, again, George put in 2.1 hours on an insolvency matter. Probably shouldn't have been doing that. And how much revenue is George generating from the different areas? Obviously, again, litigation is the key, with intellectual property being very big for George as well. So with one click, you can get that, and now you can start to answer those questions. So now you want to start evaluating all of these time and fees and understand how it happens. Well, I think we've seen in that time and fee journal that I ran for you a few minutes ago exactly how all of that works. So we saw that with one click we could bring it up, see who was doing the time on what tasks, and then you need to start asking questions like, can someone specialize? If 2 or 3 people are spreading a bit of time around practice areas, one practice area, can you move all of that work to one of your people so that they become more specialized and thereby more efficient? And of course, can you automate? Is there a tool like practice management software which could make them more efficient in running it? Next, you need to understand your billing, and here it works in a very similar way. Look at it ask the questions. What is your process? How long is it taking? Billing one file can be slow and it can be a bit of a pain. So how can you automate that? Again, that's where a tool like Amicus Attorney can really help, because with premium billing, you can do mass billing. Studies show that if you just bill at the end of each case or transaction, and you take a lot of time generating a big bill, the client's satisfaction level and likelihood of paying is going to be very much lower than if you bill everyone in your firm every month. But billing everyone in your firm every month is time consuming unless you have a legal time and billing program like Amicus Premium Billing that will do it with a single click. Next, you need to look at your billing realization. All right, I got my billing out. Run another one of those reports I showed you and find out what percentage of the billable time is showing up in bills. And that's, of course, because you can have write-ups or write-downs. Clearly, you like to see numbers above 100% and not so much the ones under 100%. We talked about you've got a bill every month. Here's graphic proof, and you need help. Again, measure yourself and your firm. How are you doing about this? I'll flip into Amicus because it can be just a little bit easier to see it here. I'm in my attorney side. I'll flip to my billing side. Go to my daily reports. Now, these are generated for me automatically every day by Amicus, and I'll go to the billing manager. With one click there, what it's showing me is all the work in progress in my firm. So, and it's showing the percentage of that, it's showing it by dollar amount, and the percentage of that according to how long it's been out there. So current means it's happening in the current month. Well, obviously that's not billed work yet. It's a pretty small percentage, so greater than 30 days. So this work in progress, this WIP has been around 30 days. It probably should be about to be billed. If not, it should be already billed. Well, between those two, that's about half the time the WIP in my firm. That's okay. But look at this. Over 90 days, 46% of my WIP is over 90 days, and my goodness, 5% is over 120 days. That's too old. And the client satisfaction is going to be less likely to pay when I finally do get around to billing that. So again, understand the goals, which is to keep your WIP current, and then have a means of tracking it like this beautiful report in Amicus that just tells you how to do it. And I can see that not just by the whole firm at a time, but by file type, billing category, or I can pick any lawyer and see that information as well. And of course, I can also run a full report that shows all the lawyers in my firm and how much of their WIP is over time. Next question, what is being billed? Again, time, fees, expenses, you need to track all of that, understand it. You get a simple report that helps you. Similar question, who is doing the billing? Who's making write-ups and write-downs? Simple report will tell you all of that. And don't forget about adjustments. So one of the things that happens as bills happen, and we saw this in our initial chart, is people say, I can't really charge that, I'm going to have to write this. Well, up is great, but down is not so good. So again, you can run one report that shows you by responsible lawyer, by activity, whatever else you want, what's being written off. And as you can see, the file type here, we've got a very large amount of write-off in the real estate area. Something's wrong with our real estate practice. You can see that with a single glance. Next, we get to the similar question, and that is about collections and accounts receivable. You need to look at this and say that how much is out there, how long are clients taking to pay the bills, who in your firm is doing well at collecting, and which of your lawyers or staff are not collecting as promptly as they should. What practice areas pay their bills? Because some practice areas pay very promptly and others tend to be very slow. Same thing with clients. You might have clients who are very slow or bad or always arguing with the bill, and maybe those are clients you just can't afford to keep around anymore. And you can add all of that up into a collection realization percentage. Now, here's a couple of industry facts that are interesting for you to know in that regard. In small firms today, the studies show that somewhere, depending on the firm, between 10 and 40% of clients let their legal bills go past due. And of course, that creates a real issue for you and me in terms of our cash flow and profitability. Another really important fact, though, is that the studies show that for at least half of small firms, they'll say that if the client's bill has been outstanding, if the AR is over 90 days, it's either unlikely or highly unlikely to ever be paid. So what does that mean? It means you need to be measuring your accounts receivable and making sure it never gets to that dangerous over 90-day territory. So we'll just go back to that same daily report that you get in Amicus Attorney and see that just like it measured the WIP, it's measuring your AR, and it's showing you how much AR is current and how much is greater than 30 days. Well, you've got a fair amount in those two categories, but now you've got 16% over 60 days, and wow, look at this. 41% of my firm's AR is over 120 days. Statistically, that is highly unlikely to be paid in full. In fact, it's probably virtually impossible that that will be paid in full, and if I collect half of that, I'm doing really well. Oops. That's a problem for my firm. But if I don't have visibility into that, I won't know it and I won't do anything about it. So when Amicus Attorney presents to me on a daily basis these stats, and again I can see it by firm or lawyer or file type or category, I can know that something's going offside and I can do something about it. And that's the key. Understanding what you need to check, checking on it, and then doing something about it. AR aging, of course, can come out in a report as well that shows you all your lawyers and all your practice areas and here's all that awful time over 120 days, and you can see where it is, and there's a big chunk of it in real estate. So again, clearly the real estate side of our law practice is not working well. We're writing off money, and then there's a lot of money in very old receivables. Again, you want to report for tracking your write-offs. Very easy with one click, identify what's been billed in each area and what's been written off. And then try and analyze your collection realization. One-click report shows you what percentages you're getting, and none of those are 100%, but then we predicted that. All right, with all of that, then we need to say, is just billing by the hour the answer, or is there a better way to bring in dollars for the value we deliver to our clients? And the answer is more and more yes. Fixed fee or contingency is the way the market is trending. Why? Well, increased competition most certainly. The ability the technology gives to aggressive law firms to do it that way. But most importantly, I think the main driver is clients themselves. They want predictable legal costs. I mean, we've all seen it. The client comes in and says, I need your help with this. What will it cost? And you look them in the eye and you say, my billable rate's $250 an hour. And they go, well, what? Well, I charge you for the time I'm going to take to resolve this matter for you. And it's like a deer in the headlights. That is just not an acceptable answer in the year 2016 to most clients. They want reliability, predictability. They want to know that they can afford to retain you and that the result is going to be worth the cost to them. And that drive to predictability is leading the charge for the pressure for fixed fee, or sometimes called value billing or phase billing, which is a variation on that same theme. As we saw from the survey I showed you a little earlier, most firms are seeing the proportion of the work that they do under a fixed fee or contingency or value basis growing every year. Don't worry about that if you're not already doing it and leading the charge yourself, because the next stat is one that I'm very happy to see, and that is that 72%, or almost 3/4 of firms who are doing fixed fee billing are saying it's as profitable or more profitable than hourly billing. And that's great. And it actually liberates us from the tyranny of the billable hour. I don't know about you, but I hate doing my timesheets. Bad news is I still have to do it, but there's this association between the timesheets and the money that I'm going to bring in that is a very negative one. And what's great about that is you're freed from that tyranny, because there are more efficient ways to do things. Technology can make us so much more efficient at how we practice law, at how we deliver value to clients. And you know, in the old days, there used to be a tension between efficiency and lawyers, because why should you do in half an hour what you could do in an hour, because you're going to charge the client for a whole hour and you couldn't be dishonest about writing it up to an hour. The answer, of course, is fixed fee billing, and technology is so powerful that way. So again, back to practice management, have a look at Amicus Attorney. It can do things like automatically draft in 30 seconds a good first draft of a document that previously you would have taken an hour to draft. Automated document assembly like that is just one example of how a practice management system like Amicus is going to help you generate for your client the legal value you're delivering in a fraction of the time. And then you can, if you used to charge, say, $300 an hour to do that document, but you want to be able to charge 150. Now you're doing that document in 5 minutes and you're still charging 150. The client's happy, you're happy, everybody's more profitable. So those are the techniques you need to look at to make fixed fee billing and your business more profitable. Here comes the bad news though, and that is that while you're doing all of that, you still need to track the investment you're making into the value you're bringing in so that you can set the value appropriately. If you don't track your time, then how are you going to know what your investment is? How are you going to know whether you're winning or losing on those fixed fees that you set? So the good/bad news is, good news is it's really easy to track your time in something like Amicus Attorney. The bad news is you have to keep doing so if you want to have a profitable fixed fee billing law practice, and that is the way our profession is going. And it also lets you see your effective hourly rate, because when you track your time like that, you can see that, hey, when I do this kind of work using this kind of automation, I'm really effectively bringing in $750 an hour, never mind the $250 I used to charge. And you can and will find that if you analyze your practice carefully in the kinds of ways we've talked about this afternoon. So backing up from that, you need to go through each component as we just did, but then you need to look at it all as a complete business. You need to have the data, you need to track the data, and then analyze it, and of course, look for areas you can improve. You also need to do this over time. Looking at it any one day is just a snapshot. You need to look at it today and really every month and monitor how you're doing, and ideally over several years put it together and look for the trends. Once you do all of that, you can make the informed strategic decisions. And I guess, yes, definitely part of that big picture is you need some simple, helpful tools that'll help you do that without getting in the way, without making it a full-time job to do your business analysis, so that you can practice law, but then push that button to get that analysis. And once you do, you can start to make those strategic decisions. So for example, you can look at it and say, well, I'm growing my practice, I want to grow my firm. Where am I getting more work? What's going to be more profitable? Is it tax? Is it litigation? What do I need to do about my collection efforts? Can I transfer to fixed fee work? And if so, which ones and at what rate? Which clients should I refer to other firms? Well, that's a polite way of saying which clients are simply not worth the effort and I'll decline to represent them. Can I do something like mass billing so that, and here this comes from tracking your non-billable time, if my administrative time on billing is too high, I need to put in a system that automates it and does it at once. Is there an area of law that I'm not profitable at or not effective at? Can I raise or lower my rates? And then on a bigger firm basis, do you have a colleague who's doing very well when you do this analysis? Should you be offering them a partnership? There's a lot of great decisions you can make if you can analyze your practice as a business as a whole, and that's what this is all about. You can be both a better lawyer and more profitable at the same time. So that was a quick overview of the types of things that a product like Amicus Attorney with premium billing can do and how it really does improve your practice from a business point of view. I thank you very much for listening to me this afternoon.